Thank you for listening and watching Little Saigon TV. Today I have Denise Davis. She is the Emergency Management Coordinator with the City of Westminster. Hello Denise, how are you doing today?
Hi, I'm good. How are you doing?
Good. I just want to bring you in today to talk about, share some of your experience with the emergency preparedness as well as some of the programs that we have throughout the city. And first of all, would you please kindly introduce yourself?
Yes, my name is Denise Davis and I am the Emergency Management Coordinator at the City of Westminster. My experience has been that I have about 27 years of experience in emergency management. I've worked in other cities and as a consultant in emergency management, writing plans, developing training, conducting emergency operations center exercises, so anything related to emergencies and disasters.
So when talking about emergency preparedness, how has that changed over time?
You know, as far as disasters go, that's a very scientific question. But for people that live in the community, one thing I can say is that the time that a person needs to prepare for a disaster has grown considerably. We used to say that you should prepare for 1 to 3 days. And within that time period, an emergency responder, law, fire, you know, someone would come to help you. But now we're seeing that it really is a longer period of time, somewhere between 3 to 7 days and up to 10 days before emergency responders can make it to all of the houses in the community. If you think about that there are many fewer responders working than there are people in a community, that makes sense. That they can't get everywhere at one time. They have to prioritize what's happened within the community, go to the most severe situations, rescue the people that are in life-threatening situations before they can get around to the homes that perhaps maybe they don't have power or they have a water leak or something like that. So preparing for a longer period of time.
Usually within our city, is there someone who oversees the emergency preparedness?
You know, in the city's municipal code, it mandates that the city manager serves as the director of emergency services. And so when something like a disaster happens, the city manager is ultimately in charge of everything. Obviously, though, the city manager gives or appoints other people. The fire chief from Orange County Fire Authority is busy throughout the county, so it could be perhaps you know, a fire captain or something that would help at the city in our emergency operations center. More than likely, though, the police chief would have a vital function, public works director would have a vital function in coordinating the response to that kind of a situation.
That's right. I noticed that at our city specifically, we have an emergency operations center in a police department, so I can assume that the police department will be overseeing the operations in a way.
I think that they have a huge role considering we contract for services with Orange County Fire Authority. The Emergency Operations Center was, when they built the new police department, they took the opportunity to ensure that the city had a highly functional Emergency Operations Center, or what they call an EOC. You'll hear people call it an EOC. And that's where staff gets together and they coordinate all of the needs for the emergency responders out in the field, and they provide alerting and notification to the community members, and they work with other agencies like Red Cross or maybe animal control to help people if they have to evacuate, where can they put their pets, and so the Emergency Operations Center, being in the police department, it's in a secure location, and nobody can get to all those people, and so it's a nice private location where they can work together to assist the emergency responders out in the field and the people, the community members.
That's right. I noticed that there's a lot of signs within the EOC like finance, public works.
Right.
Can you share with us some of those departments?
Emergency management uses a couple of systems, what they call systems. One is incident command system, and that was derived from fire department operations, how they would organize and coordinate a disaster, that when you had many things or functions that needed to take place, We also use something called the Standardized Emergency Management System. That's a law that, in California, and then across the nation, something called the National Incident Management System. All of these break down all the different functions that need to take place during an emergency or a disaster, and then they assign them to what they call as a section. Operations is basically the field operations, what goes on out there, the response to the emergency. Planning, they plan ahead for what's going to happen as far as the disaster. Do we need more people? Do we need more resources? Do we need more supplies? Logistics section, they provide assistance by providing the tools and equipment and materials that we need. And then finance, they track all of the costs. They provide something that it's a name they call the burn rate, and what that means is that they track all the costs per hour so that the city can control how much they're spending and be wise about the costs related to the disaster, and also to track costs and accounting in case there's a declaration of emergency, and we can get money back from our response once the president declares the emergency, and then the Federal Emergency Management Agency will provide that to cities that have been involved.
If all these are planned out, why should we even get prepared for an emergency disaster?
Well, because there's, you can not prepare and be extremely disrupted in your life in a disaster, and perhaps lose things in your home, things that matter, that cost a lot of money. Or you can prepare and not be so uncomfortable and not lose the nice, fine things you have in your home.
Right.
Yeah.
So how should I even prepare for these emergency disasters?
Well, the first step is finding out what can happen in our community. And in Westminster, the main things that can happen are earthquakes and flooding, and we have hazardous materials, and we have severe weather. Do you know that there are actually tornadoes in Orange County? Oh. You never think of that because you think of only in Kansas or somewhere in the Midwest or something. But we have had tornadoes in Orange County and in the Los Angeles basin, and they have cost a lot of damage and money, and they've injured people. So severe weather, though, like heat, this heat that we've been having lately, I mean, that affects a lot of people. Primarily seniors and maybe people with disabilities or access and functional needs, but we can prepare ahead so that we don't have to suffer as much, I guess is the way to put that. So when you're planning, you find out what you have that could happen, and then you just plan ahead for that by preparing your family, coming up with a family plan, a work plan. If your children are in school, then how will those children, get by while they're at school and you're at work? And then getting supplies for your home and equipment that you might need to take care of your home. And if you do all that ahead of time, then it won't be so bad for you when something happens.
Right.
Yeah.
And especially for some of those people, or even if I have a disability, how should I prepare for an emergency like this?
You have to think about the disability and what type of emergency could happen, and then consider all the things that you would need to prepare ahead for. For example, people with disabilities may have trouble receiving notifications of disasters or alerts for safety. Evacuation notices, they may not be able to hear them, or they may not be able to see them if they just are on the television. So the city prepares ahead of time for people with disabilities. There are other people, though, that have needs that aren't necessarily the types of disabilities we think about. And so the city plans ahead for those folks as well. But if you are a person that has special needs, you need to consider all the things and then maybe plan more ahead. If you are going to need power for perhaps a respirator or something like that during a disaster, then you need to make sure and get a little generator and let other people know that you may be in need and you may need assistance during some type of a disaster.
Thank you very much. Later on, we're going to talk more a bit, about some of the things that we should have. We'll be right back after these commercials.
Thank you.